So AgXcel offers a hydraulic diaphragm pump built specifically for precision planning for their vApply HD and for their vApply base. Looking at this pump system right here, this is our GX5 series of pumps. This pump specifically, the model is the LFP80. It's rated for down to half a gallon per minute and up to 18 gallon per minute. The pump itself has a motor paired with it that will come with it that's rated for 550 RPM. It will also come with the PWM. Now the pump is rated for 550 RPM to match the motor. So other vendors and dealers out there, when they offer the hydraulic diaphragm pump or whatever pump they're offering, it probably won't come with the motor or the PWM. They would probably tell you to use a seed motor, or if it does come with a motor, it still wouldn't be rated for 550 RPM. So basically what that can do, besides causing strain on the pump to run a smaller RPM motor, you're also not getting the full capacity out of the pump because of that. What that can also cause, more importantly, is you're going to use more hydraulic fluid to move that pump versus if you use the motor that we offer that has the same RPM rating as the pump itself. So as where our PWM, it'll only use as much hydraulic fluid as it needs. Let's say if you need 2 gallon per minute of hydraulic fluid to move X amount of product. If you were to use a seed motor, that might be rated for 360, say RPM. Some of them are rated for about 460 RPM. You're gonna have to use a lot more hydraulic fluid to move that pump to get the same X gallon per minute rate of fertilizer out. So the motor for all of the GX5s, for all of our GX5 family of pumps, is going to be the same. Same with the PWM. What we also offer is another motor for vApply base that will have the RPM sensor built into it. So this motor that we use for vApply HD, we also use for all of our other setups for Greenstar, Ag Leader, Trimble, whatever it may be. We can also use it for the vApply HD. When it comes to vApply base, since you have to be able to read the RPM of your shaft, this motor is the same thing, except we just have the shaft sensor built inside of it. And then we will also give you the cable that will then plug into the motor, and then the other end will plug into the harnessing that Precision Planning gives you with their setup. So looking at the pump system setup itself, this would be your inlet. We have a 2-inch flange. We will give you a straight fitting and an elbow hose barb fitting for your inlet as well. As we go into the pump system through this hose, we'll then come out of the pump system, and then we'll have this gray handle valve here. This will be a recirculation valve. On your 2020, you'll have to use this as part of your setup, but you could also use it for agitation as well. From the factory here, we have it plumbing back into the inlet of the pump system, but if you wanted to cut that hose and run it back to your tank, if you wanted to do agitation, you could do that as well. So I will take off the locking collar, I can open up this valve, and then I can send product either back to the inlet of the pump system, or if I plumb it back to my tank, then I can do an agitation that way. Say if you're using one of our larger hydraulic diaphragm pumps as well, where the low end isn't half a gallon per minute like with a smaller pump would be, our larger pumps, they can only get down to 5 gallon per minute. Say if you needed to get a rate that is lower than that, you can open up this valve as well, recirculate more product throughout the pump system, and then send less out to the rows. So that's another option that would be available for you. As we continue from the plumbing, underneath of this pressure gauge, we have a spike valve that goes back into the inlet of the pump system. So what that does, it's basically a safety valve. It'll open up at 100 pounds. If you were to, for some reason, deadhead, this pump system isn't going to go much more than 100 PSI, so another safety feature for you. And then on the outlet of the smaller pump, we will have a 1-inch flange. We will give you a hose barb with that as well. That's either 3/4 inch or 1 inch, whatever size you need, or else we can just get you both sizes. Also, with our PWM, we only use as much hydraulic fluid as what is needed for the system to operate. So at most, our PWM can take up to 10 gallon per minute of hydraulic fluid. On the smaller pumps, we don't even get that high for our total usage when you max out the pump. Also, commonly with these pumps, a lot of guys, if they're doing 5 to 6 mile per hour, 5 to 7 gallon per acre, you're only doing 1/4 of what this pump is capable of of its max gallon per minute range. So when you look at the hydraulic fluid usage, you might only use 1, maybe 2 gallon per minute of hydraulic flow. The nice part about that is with our pump system, it doesn't have to have its own dedicated remote. You could run it parallel or tee it off of your blowers or your vac fan. You could also, if you have downforce, you could tee it off of that. There's a lot of guys, even their row markers, they can tee it off of that. Since we don't take a lot of hydraulic fluid to run, it's pretty easy for us just to integrate anywhere into your hydraulic line, and then we can operate off of that. So this is another one of our GX5 series of pumps. This model is the LFP 160. It's rated for down to 5 gallon per minute and up to 55 gallon per minute, and it's a 4 diaphragm pump. We do have one pump that's larger as well. It's a 6 diaphragm pump, again rated for down to 5 gallon per minute, but instead of 35 gallon per minute, it's rated for up to 55 gallon per minute. And then with this pump, again, we will use the same PWM. We would also use the same motor setup with it as well. If you are doing vApply base, let us know. We'll give you the motor with the RPM sensor built into it, and then it's a plug and play from there. Looking at the inlet of this pump system here, we will have a 2-inch flange. We can give you a 2-inch straight and elbow with the pump system as well, so you can plug right into your tank. We'll follow this hose into the pump. We will then come out of the pump, and then we have a pressure gauge that'll come with all the systems. Right here, again, is your recirculation valve. You can run that back to the tank for agitation, or if you needed to get to that rate that's lower than 5 gallon per minute, depending on your setup, if you're going slow enough, or sometimes if you're putting out a low enough rate, you can open this up and you can get to a lower rate with that as well. Underneath of here, we'll have the spike valve going back to the inlet. That'll be your safety at 100 pounds. And then on this setup, I have a flow meter on here. Precision Planning will provide you with a turbine flow meter, and we can get you the same kind of turbine flow meter as well if you do desire to have a flow meter. In this case, I do have a magnetic flow meter. It's the most common flow meter that we sell with any kind of pump setup that we offer. The magnetic flow meter, the advantage about that is you don't have the turbine inside that can get stuck or that can break. Save a little bit of liquid frozen there over the winter, or say if you let it sit overnight and if you're using kind of a nasty biological setup, and now it's all crusty in there or crystallizes in there and the turbine's not spinning, totally avoid that with a magnetic flow meter. So a lot of guys will prefer that flow meter over the turbine because of those reasons. Or else if you didn't want the flow meter, we will simply just have a hose barb outlet over here, and then we can get you whatever size you need depending on your setup, and then you can get out to your implement from there. So call us today. We can get you pricing and all the information you need on the GX5 system, or you can also go online and request a quote online and any other information online, and one of our sales reps will get back to you very quickly.